Hello and welcome to HolisticCircle podcast and to our live streaming series in September about artificial spirituality. Welcome everyone. This is our third session in the season, and I'd like to welcome everyone who's with us live today. Please, we're doing this for your pleasure. You're welcome to leave comments, ideas, and questions, and I'll be later monitoring all the questions coming in. I'll try to bring them to the panel. Please enjoy. And before I start to introduce the fantastic panel we have here with us today, I would like to quick recap what happened in the past two live sessions here in September. The first one was about, quite generally, about artificial intelligence and therapy, basically an introduction. And our therapist spoke a lot about the question, will AI ever be able to hold space for a person to grow and reflect? On the other hand, there were quite interesting ideas about new forms of therapies, how maybe therapists and AI entities together can create new and exciting ways of therapy. So that was the first one. The second one was quite deeper when we asked if AI might bring new stage of consciousness in humanity. It became a much more philosophical conversation that I've anticipated, and it's worth watching. Great points had been made, but generally speaking, yes, positive about the possibility, interested how humanity might change through intensive AI, but very worried about big conglomerates, big data centers controlling all of this information. And I think this very well fits with our next session that we have today that talks about profiting from pain, making artificial wealth from trauma. So I think this is a most deep conversation we're going to have in this series. And now it is my great pleasure to introduce our panel. I'll try my very best to not mess up. And first we have Liz Shuler. She's a therapist, a somatic healer, psychedelic integration. I hope I will learn more about that. And I was supposed to say the name in German, Shuler. Sorry, so that's the first mistake. There we go. I got more to come. We have Samantha Santiago, I think PhD and M.B.A, business and personal coach, author of 19 books. And I think it'll be quite interesting what's going on there. And we have Anna Johnson, almost correctly spelled, and an integrative medicine and trauma coach. And I hope very important points will be made about especially looking at trauma patients where she has a lot of experience. I think this will be quite important to us. This is all for now. Maybe we have one more guest arriving a bit later, but this is where we are. And I would like to have an open panel, basically moving backwards, starting with Anna, if you'll be so kind. And the first question is a bit of a cheeky one from my side, just to get the spices flowing. And the first question is, there we are. If all secrets are out, what is there left to protect?
Wow. If all secrets are out, what is there left to protect? That's a good question. I think when I first came on here, we talked about love, and I think that's important to bring up here, is that when we start really with advances in tech and with AI, we more now than ever need to connect with one another as humans, as individuals, and it's so important to bring love into that. And it's really hard to do that with AI. It's going to tell us a lot of maybe some facts, some things that aren't true. It's going to try and tell us a lot of things, but what is not there is that human love and compassion, empathy in action. And that's what we need to protect, our innate humanness.
Liz, would you like to have a try on this question?
Yeah, I think it's interesting, the question as framed, because I don't think that all secrets are out, right? I think artificial intelligence gives us a lot of awesome powers, things that we can do with it that we couldn't do ourselves. that still doesn't mean that we understand our brains any more than we did yesterday, really. I mean, our brains are a complex organ that we haven't figured out yet. We have tiny little bit of information on the surface of what our brains and our bodies do. So I don't think all of the secrets are out. And I also think that we have so much to protect. I mean, I love Anna's answer of love and empathy, but also just our natural world. We have gone to a place where we see the world as dead, right? It's just something for us to extract. And I think the more we understand ourselves and the world, the more we'll want to protect that. At least that's what I hope.
Interesting. Samantha, may you try the first round?
Absolutely. So what do we do if all the secrets are out? I think that if we find that all the secrets are out, I think it redirects back to Anna's statement is that human connection and love are there. And so the premise of my whole teachings is there are 8 levels of love, and the highest level then coordinates with Liz's statement, and that's agape love. And it's the selfless love of us towards, I say God, some people say higher being, but us towards God, him towards us towards the world, and towards other people, and reciprocated. And that is the essence of what every single person is. That's what we long for. And so if the secrets are all out, we're left with us. We're left with protecting our essence. We're left with protecting what's most important, which are emotions and connections, and creating a space where you feel safe and accepted and loved. And so for me, I think if the secrets are out, like, let's go on with it, because you're just going to pass all those ego points, and then you're going to get to a place of actual harmony and like a level playing field for people just to really want to understand each other better.
Thank you so much. The question is rooted in the idea that our therapy as we know it is me and you sitting in a room, laying on the couch, pouring out my inner secrets, and now people come to the idea, well, let's share it with the world. So does anybody want to reflect on anything that comes to mind on that idea that millions of people already, 100,000 every single day, old, young, teenagers, sitting there and pouring their darkest secrets, their vulnerability into the void that we'll never forget. It's who wants to take it on?
Oh, I'll go after Liz then.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. I think it's an interesting question because, again, our brains aren't wired for this technology that we have, right? So when you sit alone in your office or in your room or on your phone and you're talking to this tech, I don't think most people understand how not private that is, right? I think we have this idea that if we're sitting in a private place, if we're alone by ourselves, just because we're working on the phone doesn't mean that, you know, we're still in a private space. And so I think there was a big scandal with BetterHelp, which is an online therapy provider, where they were selling data from their intake questionnaire about people's ideas about suicide, like whether they were contemplating suicide, what their diagnoses were, like all of these things. And you don't think about it because that's not the world that we've been prepared to live in, right? This is all so very new in our like 300,000 years of being human. It's a blink of an eye. So I think helping to educate people that it isn't private is probably one of the biggest things that we can do as healers and as coaches and as people who want to keep that ethical stance and that idea that the human is important, because people just don't understand. It's not something that we can really fathom how many people actually have access to those things that we write on the computer.
Right. Anna, did you say something? Did you wanted to say something?
No.
Oh, sorry. I thought I missed. Thank you so much, Liz. This is exactly my point being, because you say, well, let's educate them. Let's not give up the fight. We can still educate the people. But what happens if people don't care? I mean, what is people say? Well, people getting married to ChatGPT, for crying out loud. So if that's their new life partner, why would they not share their deepest secret? Can we spend a couple more minutes on, for every angle that comes to your individual mind, reflecting on what privacy, data, or what these intimate thoughts, what they mean to you, and how that might change when people might see this differently? Would you have some idea on that?
Are you asking me?
No, I'm
Okay.
you're on the big screen on us, so you're in the center of the. Would you like to continue, or whoever feel like?
Yeah, when we talk about, I love that she brought up data points because it's so true. And we talk about the algorithm, and it's connected into literally everything we do. Shopping on Amazon, shopping at Target, it's in our Instagrams, it's in our LinkedIn, it's connected to everything that they do, and they're collecting this data for free. I mean, we're just giving it to them, and then they're creating our persona and who they think we are based off of something that is just a data point, and we aren't data points. I love Gestalt psychology and the theory of Gestalt because it's looking at everything from a whole, and the small pieces basically. Yes, there might be a part of you who is addicted to shopping, for instance, but that's not all you. But what they're gathering with AI and algorithms is what you are is a shopping addict, and we want to make money off of you. And so I think it's really important that we start addressing what's going on here, especially with, tech and how they're stealing our data. I think that's so important to recognize because they can use it in ways that I'm not saying they're completely insidious, like it's not on purpose. They want to make money. Their bottom line is the dollar, and there's all of us to kind of feed off of. So yeah, that's what I have to say to that.
Samantha, would like to bring you in.
Yeah. So I would like to tie on to that, because I always like to say misery likes company, but if you flip it, companies like misery, because that's what the major industries are essentially building off of, is our trauma, our insecurities, the things that we secretly hold and talk to Chat GPT about. And it is very relevant that we're sticking it out there, because I think it's a secret cry for other people saying, hey, I want to be seen too. But when it comes to your privacy and developing these personas and these avatars, it really is, I like to say, emotional manipulation in like a very deep way, because not only is AI and the businesses behind it using it to create the avatars, using it to predict your behavioral patterns, they're tying it to different internet pieces. I mean, you could be on your tablet and they're going to know how close you are to your phone, how close you are to your TV, and they triangulate and they will target market you for those same things. And our beings are at risk, essentially, kind of like Liz and Anna were saying, is that we have to protect ourselves. And with AI just kind of infiltrating and being able to take all those data parts from us, I mean, you can use it maliciously or you can use it to help, but the question is, how are people actually using it personally and on an enterprise level?
Okay, I can see this conversation is still really focused on what we see right now, where we're in the process. But let us just try to look 3-4 years advance, because I hear you and I'm with you, but I'm really skeptical. As much as I'm positive about humanity, but the next couple of years will be rough, because they're so convenient. As you say, they will be organizing our trips, they will be tutoring our kids on math. They will be all around us because they're going to be incredibly convenient. And the idea that the Europeans have that they can put safeguards or whatnot, I mean, it's a joke. So basically, we're going to be confronted with it. People are going to use it. So I would, before we go into the money making with trauma, and as you said, it's all over the industry, and I agree with you, and I hope we'll spend the big portion of this conversation on that subject. I would like to annoy you and come back one more time and just really look at this from the human perspective, from the therapy perspective, from your work perspective. would you, or let's start with Liz, would you like very much if your clients, did you have experience, has anyone of you had experience with a client already is working with IE? Did you already hear some stuff with friends, family? Does any one of you have an IE experience? Liz, you're shaking, I'll bring you in.
Yeah, definitely. I had a person that I worked with that basically was like, I can't afford therapy, I can't afford coaching, I'm going to use ChatGPT, right? And I completely understand that. The problem with that is, again, they're stealing your data, they're stealing your secrets, they're stealing your innermost thoughts and feelings in order to sell to you again, right? And I think that all of this kind of pulls back to that, the fact that corporations are there for one thing, and that's to make money and to make more money than they had yesterday. Like that is literally their function, right? That's what capitalism is. So when we think about, yes, there are amazing ways we can use AI. I think about Daniel Schmachtenberger and the way that he talks about using AI as like tutoring in the way that, you know, aristocrats used to get tutoring, personal tutoring from mathematicians, and how you could use AI to do that. That would be amazing. But if we don't all limit it, right? You were talking about the EU. Well, the EU wants to put controls on it. Great, but if the EU puts controls on it, the US might not. And then does it really matter? No. So we have to find a way to, all of us together, come together, use that human connection, that human empathy, that idea that we don't want to be used, we don't want our emotions manipulated. We want to use this to better humanity, not to make more problems down the road. I don't know how exactly we get there other than to do the work that we do and try to help people understand themselves and bridge into community. But I think until we all decide to do it, again, if there's one person, one country out here doing it differently, things get messed up.
I have to annoy you. What happens if not? Where are we in 5 years? If not, if you and me fail, if we all fail, and people say, I don't care, I want the convenience, Dater, Schneider, whatever, I want to, I don't have no money for therapists, that's what I want to do. What do you see there as problems, dangers, or possibilities? Let's look at this, if you'd be so kind.
I mean, if you look at ecological, boundaries, we've gone past many of them at this point. I don't see a way forward that doesn't include some sort of collapse of the society that we have now. That doesn't mean that, it's completely doom and gloom, that humans go away or whatever, but it means that capitalism cannot continue the way that it is going. And I don't think that capitalism itself is, again, that infinite growth. And on a finite planet, you can't do that. It's the same with AI. We cannot infinitely grow these things with all of the energy and all of the eventually you run out of human data as well, right? Birth rates are lowering. It can't continue to grow. Eventually it collapses and it comes in and it's degrowth. But that also is a beautiful thing in a way, because when a tree dies, right, it becomes fodder for the next tree. So that's how I see it. And
this is an amazing point, by the way. Was anybody would like to jump in on that as well, or should we a little bit? Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. I think I have some stuff to talk about it from like a coaching perspective, and just seeing how AI is being integrated into health and wellness and kind of medicine. And I think, and coming from, so patients, clients, they want real-time help, right? They want their answers now, because, we've been conditioned now for years to get answers we think are answers off of our phone. Easy, we could Google, we have Instagram, everybody's out there saying they have the answers. And so when somebody enters into medicine, they're looking for health or healing in any health and wellness field, they want their answers now. They want to be fixed now. And if you don't have that answer now, then they're gonna go to somebody else. And that's huge when, for medical clinics and other people, you have to make money, right? So they're integrating AI into this practice, but AI is never going to help people heal in the way that we think. Maybe So I think it's great, like maybe if you want to make a food plan, you know, really basic things. But when people are trying to look at, you know, behavior patterns or why maybe they're doing certain things, you can't be using AI. So I'm going to bring up what went viral recently with TikTok, that woman who fell in love with her psychiatrist. And I hate to bring it up, but it's something important to see because that's exactly what's going to happen. She has re-traumatized herself and she has reduced herself down to such a small portion. Like that's not who this woman is, but it's all over TikTok and that's who she's going to be for the next however many years. And I hate to say it, she does need to take accountability for her actions, but that was also AI. And it takes your trauma, it takes this part of you and reduces it down, and you think that's who you are, and you're kind of falling into this trap on a very unconscious level, but it's not who you are, and you end up just doing yourself more harm. And it's really scary when you have hurt people who are sick, who are tired from so many different things, and they're going to turn to AI because they don't understand that healing takes time, that people are here to help you, that this is going to be a safe environment. And sometimes it's our own coaches, practitioners, medical people who fuck that, or who messed that up for us. But sorry,
Nope.
but it's something we really need to be aware of, because people are going to turn to AI, especially our kids and especially the elderly, because they're the ones who are the most vulnerable and they're the most alone. So yeah, that's,
No, I
kind of went on a tangent there, but it's I'm thinking of it not just making money, but how vulnerable we are and what it does to us. It's not just about stealing our data, but it's making us just our trauma when we're not just that. Yeah, we need other people to remind us of who we are.
Now, I love that. I don't know if I can chime in right now, but so for me, I know somebody who said they pay the extra to get like the total chat GPT thing, and they ask it to criticize them. And like they say, just roast me or something, and it goes in and starts criticizing. And the person says they use it as a reflective technique and just kind of like to reset themselves. And in 3 to 5 years, I've actually thought about this with the consistent use of ChatGPT, like we're saying, as for an instant result giver and solution finder. For myself, I find it very scary because once people stop looking at the internet, they stop essentially learning how to read. And once they stop learning how to read, it's really easy to infiltrate whatever you want. You can program software to say whatever you want. The ability for people to function without electronics becomes a weaponizing point that can actually be made against the entire society. And the collapse of the society is possible because people believe that they can't find it within time and on their own. And so there's this underlying lesson that's being taught to children, to elderly, and I feel like myself included, this middle ground where some of us are kind of still leery, that you have to look outside of yourself for answers. And myself, I feel like we are born with intelligence and intuition for ourselves and for others. We are gifted with information from the spiritual realm that allows us to know these things, like, hey, stop and say hey to this person. And you know, that person might be ready to commit suicide that day, but you saw them and you listened. You weren't stuck in your phone, and you actually got that person to say, oh my goodness, someone saw me. And so if in 3 to 5 years we continue down this path where it's consistently pushed AI, and I mean, even like Amazon Alexas, I had to turn mine off because it changed. I could physically feel it changing the frequency, like in my house. And it was unsettling. It was always chaotic. And then when you play music, it just subtly switches on its own to whatever it wants to play. It's not there for us. And I think people have to remember that. In 3 to 5 years, all that data collected, they're going to do what they want. But who, like Anna and Liz are saying, who are we at the end? And I think in regards to coaching, you have to have time. You can't just get AI to tell you whatever you want to hear or whatever you want to be roasted with and think that that's going to allow you to process those emotions effectively. You have to have that sounding board, and sounding board comes with experience, and AI can't provide experience in those situations because experience comes from a personal event, whereas AI is just constantly learning. And so it puts everybody at a disadvantage, in my personal opinion, who's just relying on that and looking for the quick answers and doesn't really want to face the emotions. They just want to figure out how to get around it. And so it leaves society as a whole across the globe in a very vulnerable spot, because if electronics are shut down, then what does everybody do? We all panic. And then the government could potentially jump in. And I mean, like, you can go and span and see how everything is so interconnected. But 3 to 5 years, if everything fails, like you were saying, Philip, and like coaching fails and, therapy fails, and people are just relying on AI, I honestly am a little bit uncomfortable at how we'll be able to come together as people just to even function on a daily basis without feeling like our own, unique factors, like they say the devil's in the details, those unique factors won't be used to just separate us on a more conscious level versus a bias or unconscious level.
Well, thank you so very much. I now a little bit change the subject before we're coming to the main subject of the evening. It's like the fun part in the middle. We all know that there is, of course, the first thing always is the romantic companion. And we know there have been a lot of web pages where girls engage in literature with male clients. And they figure out that instead of sitting one by one and reading poetry to men around the world, they just cloned themselves, i.e. and so they could not have one client at the time. They have thousands of clients at the time because they cloned themselves, and they give a pretty good picture of themselves, quite animated and quite clever, using all kind of different artificial tools and live videos and God knows what. They're pretty advanced, actually. And it's become a big major business. So my provocative question is, any of you as therapists could imagine that they say, that sounds interesting. I'm cloning myself as a therapist, feeding the AI with all of my specifics and my intriguing questions and all that kind of stuff. And then I could have not one client at a time, I can have thousands of clients at a time, and somebody shaking their head. So I guess the answer is most probably no. Liz, would you like to be an AI therapist clone?
Like I said, I'm not 100% against AI, right? I am against AI being used as a method of extracting profit, right? And extraction and exploitation, right? If we could get together and use it for actual progress, not like, okay, we've advanced in this way, but it creates all of these problems, these externalities down the line, right? But actual real betterment of society, I think AI could do that if we decided we want to do that as a, world, as humanity. But when you're talking about healing, like Anna and Samantha were talking about, healing is about the nervous system. Healing is about the resonance and the attunement between people. You don't heal alone. Nobody heals alone. We need each other as human beings. We need each other, and we need the natural world. So AI can't do that for you. AI doesn't have a nervous system. AI doesn't have an energy field. AI doesn't have the natural world around it to feed off of, right? So it can't give you the things that you actually need. It can't co-regulate with you. It can't help you calm your nervous system.
Liz, sorry, I'm breaking you, but how then do you imagine that millions of people have like deep, erotic, long-lasting relationships already in Asia with i.e. girlfriends? You're also, vibrations and stuff. So is this something totally different compared to therapy, or how do I understand that?
So relationships, romantic relationships, healing relationships, they have different flavors, but they're all kind of the same thing. And I think because a lot of people at this point have grown up very much online, very much in front of their computers, very much with their phone right next to them, their face in their phone all of the time, they don't know the difference. They don't understand that connection. There's so much disconnection in our world that I think that facsimile that AI gives you feels real for a lot of people until you have an actual relationship, until you feel that with somebody else in the real world, in nature. I think, yeah, it makes sense to me that somebody who hasn't ever had a romantic relationship in real life and is only online, I think that an AI relationship might feel that way for them. But what it's not doing is it's not triggering their nervous system. It's not a real thing. And I think probably Samantha can, as the relationship coach, can probably tell us more about that.
Well, go ahead, sorry. I was just going to say that I think in regards to people having relationships, I think it's just a serious lack of ability or comfort level to actually go out and communicate with people. It is not going to make you feel good when you are able to compare it to real relationships. And so I've organized, there's 8 levels of love. They're platonic, they're romantic. There are 8 different kinds of relationships that you can have. And AI can try and fill your parental relationship. They can try and fill your long lasting, your body, like the way you feel about your body, your self-love. It can try and fill any of those things. But when you don't have anything else to compare it to because of the isolation that I feel like we've all sort of ended up in, it's going to feel fine. It's going to feel great. But when you then start to go backwards and see how it feels when you connect with people, like Liz is saying, you really get a different feel, and you're going to understand the true difference of not being able to hold somebody's hand, not being able to feel that like spark when you hug somebody for the first time that you really like. There's so much more depth that artificial intelligence can't meet. It can give the facade for as long as we need it to, but there's a point in time that people are going to say, I need more, I deserve more, I want more, I don't know what I want, but I want something that's different than this. And that's when I think how Liz and Anna were discussing is that's when the world can separate from electronic relationships to human-based relationships. And we use AI as a harmonizing hybrid factor to just support those relationships, to make them more, and to change the world through our personal interactions.
Well, it hardly ever happens that I'm more skeptical than my panel. Because I just see so many people that I've never expected in my personal surroundings, normal grown-up people, which just never saw it coming, that they're starting to have, best buddy ChatGPT and have endless conversation and, really becoming best friends. And I never saw it coming. And that's why actually I started this series in August. I was so in shock having so close people around me who really starting to drift into this and cutting real world friends through it, and they're continuing and they're moving on. And that's why I started this series, because I couldn't just believe it. I thought some teenager in Asia, in my imagination, Japanese, manga and whatever. All right, okay, I can deal with it. But now coming to Central Europe, I really thought, wow, what's happening here? So I'm a bit of a pessimist in this round, that I feel a lot of people enjoy the drifting into this world. And I'm so hopeful, Samantha, that you're right, that after some extended period of time, define extended, that people will say, I missed a hug. But I hope that people still know what a hug actually is by that time. Yeah. But unfortunately, fun and games are over. We have to come to the real theme of this conversation, and it's all about the money, honey. And now we know, as therapists and as experts, how people can be tricked if they're a mean therapist who prolong sessions. There are ways with all kind of cults. They usually pry on the emotionally weak. Almost every cult recruits on drug addicted people and people who've been through childhood trauma. That's the one. Every cult is based on these people, and we've seen it and we've been there. And that's why therapists have such a strong legal standing, to make sure that there is some kind of a protection because of the weak. These people are vulnerable. You said old people, children, but everybody who's been into the situation. So can we start from the beginning and make a round with everybody? What are your thoughts about vulnerability and money? And I'm most scared that artificial intelligence is going to figure out how to put people on the hook and keep feeding it self-fulfilling prophecies and nourish these traumas for lasting it longer and ultimately making more money. That's one of my key worries. So who would like to go first in this round?
I'll go so I don't forget. I think that dealing with vulnerability, it's difficult because there's so many different layers to go with it. And in dealing with making money off of it and creating self-fulfilling prophecies, I think that that's very plausible, very true. It seems, and I mean, I could be totally wrong, but you have the massive database, and then each person gets their own unique AI persona based on the items that you have. Like your phone AI is not the same as your computer AI. And so the program is not necessarily feeding just that AI, it's feeding the massive hub behind it. And it's taking everything that everybody around the world is shoving into it and really projecting it. And so I think that there is, and I will say I'm very scared of AI, to be honest. I feel like I want a more touch-friendly situation, but because it is happening, when you look at the fact that there's so much data behind it, there is a total ability for an AI system to continuously feed somebody who's vulnerable information that they want to hear to continue, because you get the data is being sold, it's being sold and then remarketed, the marketing is getting more money. And if we can be kept as a society in a lower frequency, then it's easier to trap and convert as well as conquer. And so I like to think about it as everything's made out of particles and waves, which would be quantum mechanics. And so everything's like a wave. If you do particles, it's going to be the physical world you see. If it's a wave, it's a spiritual world. Everyone has a wave. Your emotions go high and low, right? If you stick a line of neutrality in it and turn it to the side, it becomes a dollar symbol. And that's, to me, how society has pushed the neutralization of people in their essence to keep them trapped in these spots, because we have the scarcity mindset. We have this, we have that. And those AIs will feed right into it if that's what the software developers need them to do. It'll feed right into it if that's the bottom line that's being asked to be produced. I think that people believe, kind of like how you're saying, Philip, is that they're their best friends, but it's a software. It's a learning tool. It's not a person. So all those privacy factors we were talking about are completely out of the way. And unfortunately, there is a huge gaping hole for a circulation of lowering people down to a lesser state, a fraction of who they were, like Anna was saying before. And it's just, who's going to stop it? Who's going to speak out? Or who's going to actually make the change to get it to go a different direction?
Who would like to go next? Liz, would you like to go next on this?
Sure. So I want to be annoying now. Firstly, I think, yes, cults do prey on the vulnerable, but more than anything, they want the intelligent, independent members, right? A lot of people fall for cults, and it's not because we're stupid or we're vulnerable. It's because we as a society have taken psychology and weaponized it against each other, right? I mean, Edward Bernays, who was the nephew of Freud, was the one who started the whole marketing industry, right? He took everything that Freud was doing and was like, I can make people feel bad about themselves and sell shit to them, right? So we are vulnerable in specific ways, every single one of us, right? And that is what the technology is trying to do. And that's what cults do, right? They find your vulnerability. It's not necessarily like the very, impoverished, or we think about these groups of people. It's everybody. Everybody has vulnerabilities. And that is the pattern recognition that AI can do, is really, really good at finding those things, right? Like Samantha was saying, you have all of these different data points from everywhere. I also think it's very interesting to me that we have this artificial intelligence that we think is helpful for us because it's validating us. It's hitting those vulnerability points. It's telling us what we feel like we need to hear, but it doesn't have empathy like a person does, right? So in essence, AI is a psychopath. It doesn't have any empathy. It cannot empathize with you because it does not have a nervous system. So it's manipulating you. That's what psychopaths do. It's all very surface level. It's never going to get down deep. So even if we continue doing this, if we continue doing this, we're going to start to lack empathy ourselves, because if all you are engaging with is a psychopath, right? What are you going to learn to mimic? What are you going to start doing? And we are continuing to create people and train people to be less empathetic, to be more narcissistic, as an egoistic, very focused on ourselves and not focused on anybody else. And it's going to end up with a bunch of us probably not doing very well because we don't care about everybody else. And again, we need each other to survive and to thrive. We need to have empathy. We need to work together. We need to collaborate. And AI is just perpetuating this whole dark triad of Machiavellianism and sociopathy, psychopathy, and narcissism. So the more that you engage with that, the more you're going to be like that.
Thank you so much. This is exactly my thinking. Thank you so much for bringing this in. Anna, would you also like to help us with this round? Do you feel like?
I mean, I feel like they said I agree, and I feel like they said everything is they got it.
I also think so. Everything that I wanted to be said today was just said, so I'm super happy. I can finish the session because it's exactly perfect. My worries that I have with all of it brought to the point. But interesting. Great that I have you, actually. It was perfect you on the big screen because you work with trauma patients, as you have a lot of experience with patients who had personal trauma. That's what you do. So I would really like to get your sensitivity from who really sat with people and listened to all of it, these stories, and know the vulnerabilities, all of it. That will be definitely a prime example. How dangerous would you personally see if your patients would start talking to artificial intelligence and it would start to lure them in? Tell us about the sensibility and the vulnerability of these people you work with, if you'll be so kind for a couple of minutes.
Yeah, it's really scary because a lot of people who are, and I want to broaden up the term trauma because we think about emotional trauma a lot, but also like physical trauma, like people who may have medical trauma, who have had illnesses since they were kids and kind of gaslit through the allopathic medical industry, and don't have the answers, and are getting older and still don't have the answers, and they're tired and they're sick, and what else better? Now we don't have Google, we have AI, and it could communicate with you. And so I think a lot, I think about central nervous system dysregulation and how it's kind of feeding into our lower ego in a way, and it's giving us an easy dopamine fix. And I'm really like, it's way more complicated than that on a central nervous system level and what's happening in your brain, but it's kind of like that. You get an instant answer, so you get kind of like a hit. It's really messed up to say, but it's like a drug almost. And it's even the same way when you're, again, looking at Instagram or looking at YouTube. And so people who are trauma survivors tend to really isolate themselves already. They're really sick, or they have a hard time being around family or friends because people don't really understand what they're going through, or they don't have answers themselves, and people don't have answers because everybody's just so misinformed anyways. And we're losing compassion, we're losing empathy. And so it's easy to go into your ChatGPT or whatever and just what's going on. You're literally making a friend, and you think that it's real, but it's not. And again, I hate to go back. We're going to keep on going back to how important it is to have humans involved in healing and regulation and understanding. Like, for people to feel safe, they have to feel safe within relations of other people, of other humans. They're never going to they don't really feel safe with AI. It's a false safety net. It's a complete void. And it is, again, it's conditioning and training their nervous system to thinking that's connection. And then you guys brought it up already, and then they go out into the world and their nervous system is firing off and freaking out. They don't know how to handle the connection with others because they don't know what that feels like. It feels unsafe to them. And it's like it's like a corkscrew. You're just winding up deeper and deeper into your trauma and into your pain. And it's so scary. We had, talking about mental health disorders and personality disorders on the rise. And I talk about suicide and more kids committing suicide. And it's so sad to see, because all we need is to connect together as families again, connect together as community again. We need to really start opening up our hearts and our ears and to listen to one another with compassion and empathy and sympathy, and really try and be understanding. And the only way we can do that is learning safety within ourselves. And you're not going to learn that with AI. You got to learn that yourself, and you got to learn that in relationship with people. And so it's like this really messed up, like, vicious cycle that people who are dealing with addiction or trauma or autoimmune chronic illness kind of deal with. And I hear it all the time. And it's really, really sad. And the only thing I could do, one, is create a decent enough space that they could just be open enough to talk about what they're going through, because I don't have the answers, not then and not right now. And they may not even feel safe at that point to even talk to me. So it's like, it makes even coaches' jobs and therapists' jobs, doctors' jobs even more difficult, because people are isolating themselves so much. It's so hard to get into the heart of what's going on. Especially when people are like, I don't want to talk about trauma. I don't want to hear it, because they don't know how to regulate their own emotions, or, it's like, I don't want to hear it. And it's sad. It's sad to see.
Thank you so much for this round. First of all, we're coming now really to the last couple of minutes. Whoever has to leave, please leave as agreed on the hour, and the ones who might stay a couple of minutes on. We are basically coming in the last moment. Again, to people who are watching with us online, if it's on Instagram or if it's on YouTube, please leave comments if you have questions for any of the guests or general observations. I'll try to bring it in at the very end to see if I can put one of those questions from the audience. And if not, I want to hear at this moment just quick look ahead at next week, Tuesday, when we talk about God is Dead, Long Live AI, a new digital divinity. And we have an interesting panel of philosophers trying to look what we're doing here. And basically, I think the idea of talking about the monetization and all of this stuff is not happening, because we all here on the panel agree we are not giving up yet on humanity. So before we're talking about all the dark monies being made, we are still not ready to let go. We still believe that we can turn things around. So then let's change the premises of the conversation, and let's spend the last 10-15 minutes and let's put our dreams and visions, how we think we can push the tide and what needs to be done if we don't want to let happen what most likely will happen. But we are not giving up. Open this to the panel to give your ideas, what you think we should be doing. Where should we start in schools? Should we start in ourselves? Should we develop different IE systems who are more humane? Has been suggested last time that we could make decentralized IE systems that are not run by one huge server, big corporation, that everything could be run on thousands of servers, more like Bitcoins or something like that. that would be much more democratic and people would have control over it. So let's forget the money, it's not happening. Let's talk about wishes and dreams for the future and what we think we can do, or we individually or as society, to avoid the worst. Is that okay if I change the conversation? And everybody's shaking their head. Who wants to go first? Raise a hand. All right, okay, there we go. You're always the brave one who's going first.
So I do want to talk just a little bit about the money first, because I do think it's important. What I've said a couple of times, the only purpose of capitalism is to make more money and to make that money grow, right? And again, growing infinitely on a finite planet is not possible. It just isn't, it's just not physically possible. So we need to figure out different ways to serve ourselves and serve the people around us and serve nature, so that we are not focusing so much on that. Unfortunately, that's the dominant system on the planet right now, right? But there are so many people working on so many different pockets of a different economy, a different way of life, a different way of being inside of that big capitalistic shell, right? And I think that for me is the way forward, is to start creating these communities, creating these pockets of doing things differently, of being human, of making sure that we are doing things for the betterment of everything instead of just for the profit, just for capitalism. And we're seeing that. I think in a lot of ways, like Anna said, that starts in ourselves. And that's a lot of what I do with psychedelics, right? Is bringing that feeling of, oh my God, I am connected to everything. I am interdependent on everything in this world. If the moon had not run into the planet billions of years ago, I would not be here, right? There's so many things that had to happen for me to be sitting in this seat right now and be experiencing this amazing conversation with you all. Psychedelics open that up for you. And then from there, you can start to work on your communities. And from your communities, we can start to work out into greater society. And I think that's the way that we have to do it. We just have to remember who we are as human beings. We have to remember who we are as community members. And we have to remember who we are as beings on this earth, as interdependent animals in this ecosystem.
What I'm hearing is psychedelic in the public water system, and things get too heavy with artificial intelligence and problem solved.
No, because that's like you give everybody psychedelics and they'll go to ChatGPT and try and figure out what's happening to them, right? You can't do that. You have to have a person there with you, right? You have to have that connection. Don't dose people with psychedelics.
All right.
Everyone go to Liz.
Duly noted. Samantha, what are your wishes?
Yeah, so for me, what I do is I really start with the person. I had to go on a 10-year journey of self-healing. That's where all my books came from. And it all starts with you and understanding you came in as love, and something on one of those 8 levels broke. And that's where this whole cycle came to where you are, and you're wanting more. And it's not even that. When you get there, then you can realize the interconnectedness between you, your past being a path. But like my new favorite aspect is through the quantum mechanics and the entanglement, you really start to understand that it's connected. And then it blows up in your face, because it means the root of everything is love. Love and identity, purpose, meaning, they're all tied into each other. And you can look at it from a spiritual perspective for meaning and purpose. And you can look at it from a physical perspective of business and relationships. But it all ties together, and that's what I want for this world. That's my dream, is that my clients change the world through starting with themselves and their everyday actions and decisions that create a ripple effect into the world that they won't even recognize in 14 days. And I think it's plausible. Mm-hmm. And I think everyone just has to become a little bit more aware that this may or may not be the lifestyle or the situation that they want to stay in forever. And then choose them, and then just start going forward.
Wonderful.
It's okay. It's all right that you don't say my name properly.
Let's just get to it.
I'm just kidding. I agree with Samantha and Liz is that, and it's really obvious here, and what you're doing too, Philip, is that there are pockets of people all around the world who really see what's happening, who have for years have already been kind of starting on that inner work and that journey, and are finding their voices, finding their little groups of people and expanding from there. And it really all starts with self and really asking yourself deeper questions and really doing the physical work, taking aligned action in your life. And I think we're in this unique opportunity right now. I think we're in this like Renaissance period where we have so much available to us to start these little communities and groups, and it's actually working. And there's people out there who are actually doing the hard work of doing that, because it's not easy putting yourself out there. It's not easy doing what you are doing, Philip or Liz, Samantha, writing books. I mean, you are sharing parts of yourself, and that means something because that comes from love. And I love that you talk about quantum mechanics, Samantha, because it's absolutely true. If it is, it does matter. And you coming from that place of love it spreads out everywhere throughout your community, your family, and your life. And it's really beautiful when you see it happen in real time. It's like magic. And we can only do that when we really start that inner journey and exploring our own inner worlds. And to do that, you need safe people around you. So it's like, if it's something that you really are looking into, make sure you have a community of people around you. Make sure you have safe people around you. You know, keep in touch with family, keep in touch with friends, people who you actually can feel close to, who respect you and honor you. And from there, you will grow. Your life will grow and flourish and bloom. And it really is a beautiful thing. Get off ChatGPT, get off of AI, get out in nature, go take a walk, go get some sun. I don't know how many people I've coached and I'm like, go get some sun today. And they look at me like I'm crazy. And I'm like, did you know that like in the early 1900s, that was actually a thing that they prescribed sun to you, because it actually helps you, it heals you. And these are these things that we've lost touch of. And I think there's hope. Philip, don't worry, we got you at least.
Well, thank you so much, and I always like to end these live sessions with, first of all, if any one of you come up with a question I've forgotten to ask or something that you think might be very important, we have a couple more minutes. If anybody want to bring anything in and says, well, we haven't talked about that and it would have been important, so please come forward if something is burning in the back of your mind. And if I have addressed everything, which I rarely do, I'd like to always end very much with some quick reflection of what I've learned today from you and what I took in from this. And I think if we will look at the transcript from our live session, there's one word that's been coming up more often than any other word, and that is the word connect. Each and every one of you have used the word several times. And I think it's so funny because we're talking about a connection machine and we're talking about all these internet connections and all our connected friends. And everybody here is like, no, that's no connections. We talk about connections. So that is what I take from this conversation, is that yes, growth is not endless. I'm with you all that there is a natural ending of things, and that without building real and strong connection, whatever we're doing it, real world connection, that's maybe something I take from this round. And I would ask everyone, you just say goodbye or whatever you think you have learned or what impressed you the most or what you like to reflect in future, just a goodbye round. And then I think we did a job. This time I'm starting with Samantha for a change.
Okay. Okay. So for me, I just really appreciated that everyone was kind of on the same understanding that it's about the emotions and the love, and just like you were saying, the connection, the physical, emotional, spiritual connections, and just even in this scenario, just talking in saying hello, opening a door for someone. All of those are small connections. It's not the necessity to become best friends with someone. It's just the necessity to say and extend yourself in small gestures daily. So thank you for inviting me, and I really appreciated the conversation.
Well, I thank you, and I bring honor.
Yeah, I love that the word today is connection, because it's 100% true, and not all connection. Obviously, connection with tech is not the same as human connection, and that's the big takeaway that I want people to take from this, because it's really necessary to have coaches and therapists and people like Liz and Shuler and Liz and Samantha in your life, because we need people like them to talk about what they know in their journeys, and stay open-hearted, and everything's going to be okay. Just again, connect. There you go.
Wonderful. Liz, whoa.
Yeah, I think Samantha said it beautifully. I think
wait, somebody said that somebody came. Whoa. Oh, hello, John. You're coming at
Hello.
Oh, you came at the very end of. Oops, sorry.
Oh, really?
Hello. We can't see
Yes,
you. But
hi.
hi. You came at the very end of our session. This is basically we're on 1 hour and 2 minutes live. But I'm so happy
Oh
to
my
have you.
Lord, I thought it was at 5. I thought it was at 5 a.m. This is 5 a.m. my time right now, 5 a.m. So it was at 4 a.m. my time. Oh my God.
First of all, we can't see you. If you just quick turn on the camera, we would love to at least see you at the never mind, these are many different time zones. This thing happens, but I'm so happy that you are joining us in the goodbye round, and we at least have you there in spirit. See if you can bring your camera on, and I'll have Liz say her goodbye.
All right. So, yeah, I think it's our conversation here was a good sort of illustration of what can happen when you actually connect with people. I know we're virtual, but even through virtual connection like this, the discourse and the things that you can talk about, AI was not going to come up with this, right? We came up with a bunch of different ideas, and we worked off of each other, and we had a conversation that was aligned, right? Our nervous systems really started to align, and I felt that, and you can't feel that with AI. So I really, really appreciate, Philipp, you bringing us together, and I really appreciate Anna and Samantha and the time that we've spent together, and how that felt, at least for me.
Thank you. And obviously we had technical issues at the end with John, and there's so many different time zones. I think he's coming from Korea to us, and we have people from Belgium, and we have people from the States, and we have people from Eastern Europe, where I'm right now. So yes, it's a phenomenal that it all make it happen. So thank you so much for you for showing up, and I'll say goodbye to our listeners, and those of you who want to stay in with us for a minute or two while I'll technically clock off. Thank you very much, and see you next Tuesday on God is Dead.